The Attorney General went on Fox News and sent what Jasmine Crockett calls a threat. Now she's firing back and warning that this isn't law enforcement, it's political retribution.
Thank the chairman. I now recognize the ranking member of the subcommittee, Jasmine Crockett.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And I first just want to begin with a news alert. Guess what? Joe Biden is not the president anymore. So maybe we can move on. Maybe we can move into the present, because it seems like we are living in the past. And listen, these are not the good old days, you know, like you used to sit around and your grandparents would talk to you about what used to happen. What we need to be talking about is how we are going to legislate, because I think that some of my colleagues have confused what our jobs are. And I get that we're sitting in judiciary. And so it may seem as if we are here to be litigators, but we are here to be legislators, which means that we are supposed to be writing laws, not trying to have our own trials and determine whether or not something is true or not, or whatever the case is, or who should be sued, who shouldn't be sued. All I know is that a great American hero, a good senator out of New Jersey, said something to the effect yesterday as he was shattering the record for holding the floor, a record that had been held by another racist in this country. As he shattered that, he said something about the fact that this should not be about left versus right. It should be about right versus wrong. And I am going to tell you that I want us to focus on right versus wrong. The reason that we are struggling right now in this country as it relates to people not trusting agencies, honestly, a lot of it is because of elected leaders. Let me tell you, one of the things that the chairman and I actually agree upon, we don't agree on a lot, is that we both know that there has been a sharp incline as it relates to threats upon our lives. Regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, we both know and agree that as sitting members of Congress, we both are enduring more death threats than anybody should in this country. And I believe that it is because of the divisive rhetoric, and it is because of the selective enforcement of things. And so when we have, and I'm gonna be clear, because I had remarks and I'm going a whole other way. To have the sitting Attorney General go on, and I'm gonna call it faux news. I know some of y'all love it, but it's fake to me. To have her go on Fox News and to then decide that she wanted to send a threat to me, it was wrong. Because here it is, she is the highest law enforcement agent in this country, and people are watching and they are consuming this information, and they are believing that simply because I decided that I wanted to exercise my right to free speech, which I am not abridged from doing, that she then wanted to then politicize something that should not be politicized. I don't like Elon Musk. I'm gonna say it 50,000 times. I don't like him. I don't like that he going out there and he firing people. I think that he's a crook, because somehow the rest of us can't sit around and get whatever federal contracts we want. The rest of us can't sit around and get law enforcement and get them somehow ordained as federal law enforcement to protect him. The rest of us can't get our dealerships protected by the federal government. That is somebody that is operating above the law. For whatever reason, just because he has a lot of money, more money than everybody else. And yes, I am happy to see that on my birthday, which is what I said, there were peaceful protests around this world against him, because he is a problem. And so you never should have somebody that is sitting that high and is going to sit up here and threaten a sitting member of Congress when she knew good and well, if she watched the entire thing, that I specifically told protesters to make sure you consult with lawyers, just like I've told protesters over and over and over in the history of me advising people to go out and exercise their constitutional right. The fact that there are other sitting members that have received letters of threat from this new DOJ tells me that they are about retribution and they are not about following the law. The reason that our party, or I won't even say our party, our country is torn apart is because we can't even agree on right versus wrong. This should not be left versus right. The only thing that we're asking is that we have law enforcement that will show up when there is an actual crime. If somebody calls and says, hey, I need you to investigate this cyber crime, or I need you to investigate this child pornography, or I need you to investigate this robbery, then we want somebody to show up, and we don't want them to look at us and act as if just because I'm black or because I'm woman that I am not worthy of having that case investigated, because we have an administration that is continuously railing against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or we don't need people that show up that feel like diversity should not be valued. That is why we should have somebody that may show up and looks like me. The final thing that I'll say, because you've been gracious, is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, let me tell you something. When I walk in, I'm gonna walk in with the level of rapport and understanding that maybe some of my other colleagues will not. Charlie offered me my job, and I worked my butt off, and I worked really, really hard for all of my clients, not just those that look like me, and that is what it looks like to serve. Thank you.
What you're watching here is not just a personal dispute between a member of Congress and the Attorney General. It's a window into something much bigger and much more dangerous. The line between law enforcement and political intimidation starting to blur. Jasmine Crockett opens by cutting straight through the noise. Joe Biden is not the president anymore, and relitigating the past is not Congress's job. The job is to legislate, to write laws, and to fix real problems. But instead, she argues, too many people are treating these hearings like courtroom dramas, trying to score political points instead of actually governing. And that's where trust in institutions starts to fall apart. Then she gets to the heart of it. Threats against members of Congress are rising across the board, on both sides of the aisle. That's not a coincidence. It's what happens when leaders use divisive rhetoric and when enforcement starts to look selective and political. Crockett says plainly that when the sitting Attorney General goes on Fox News and singles her out in a way that feels like a warning or a threat, that's important. Not just wrong, it's dangerous. The Attorney General isn't a cable news pundit. She's the top law enforcement official in the country. When she speaks, people listen. And when she frames a political disagreement like a law enforcement issue, that sends a message far beyond one TV segment. Crockett is also clear about what she actually did. She exercised her free speech rights. She criticized Elon Musk. She celebrated peaceful protests. And she has consistently told protesters to follow the law and consult lawyers before they do anything. That's not incitement. That's exactly what responsible leadership looks like in a democracy. But instead of engaging on the substance, she says the Attorney General chose to politicize it and turn it into a warning shot. And when other members of Congress start receiving similar letters from this DOJ, it starts to look less like public safety and more like retribution. Her argument goes even deeper. She connects this to why so many Americans, especially people in marginalized communities, struggle to trust law enforcement in the first place. People want police and federal agents to show up when there's a real crime. Cybercrime, robbery, exploitation, violence. They don't want enforcement that depends on who you are, what you look like, or what political side you're on. And they definitely don't want a system where criticizing powerful people gets you put in the crosshairs.